Hello and welcome to another video. In today's video, we'll introduce our new SIP audio driver for Crestron Home. With OS 4, Crestron introduced native intercom communication between Crestron touch panels, allowing panel-to-panel calls within the system. However, there was still an open question. How can a Crestron touch panel communicate with external SIP endpoints, such as IP phones or intercom devices, while still initiating the call directly from the Crestron Home interface? That's exactly why we developed this driver. Our goal was to create a clean, user-friendly solution where, with just a few configuration steps, you can integrate a complete SIP calling workflow into your project. It's important to mention that this solution requires an external SIP server. The SIP server is responsible for registering extensions and handling call routing. Our driver then initiates calls to numbers that are registered on that SIP server. If you want to keep native Crestron touch panel calling functionality, you can register your Crestron panels to the SIP server while still maintaining peer-to-peer communication between panels. In this setup, panels can continue communicating natively with each other while also being able to call external SIP endpoints when needed. Now that we've covered the theory, let's move on to the practical part. In this example, I'll be using a Crestron touch panel, a 2N SIP phone, and a 2N IP intercom. First, go to the room where you want to add the driver. Navigate to Drivers, then Intercom, then ONIO Interactive, and select the SIP audio platform. Add the platform and assign it a descriptive name. Next, you'll be asked to enter a license key. You can purchase a production license from our store, or you can use the free 60-minute trial license for testing purposes. Under the number of SIP extension setting, you can configure up to 10 extensions per license. If you need more than that, feel free to contact us, and we'll be happy to provide a custom solution. Once the platform is added, go to the root folder. Under Manage Platforms, you'll see that the extensions have been generated automatically based on the number you configured. For this demonstration, we'll configure one extension, which will represent a 2N phone located at the concierge. We wanted to keep the user experience as clean and intuitive as possible, so call initiation is handled with a single tile. When pressed, this tile starts the call workflow. Under Tile Status Text, you can define what appears below the extension name in the UI. This can briefly describe the action or provide context for the user. In this example, we'll leave it as push to call. For the transferee SIP URI, it's important to understand that this must be the SIP address of a Crestron touch panel. This is the panel that initiates the call. If you enter a non-Crestron SIP endpoint here, it will not work, because the purpose of this driver is specifically to allow a Crestron touch panel to initiate the call. You should also be aware of a framework limitation. The tile will always trigger the specific panel defined in the transferee field, not necessarily the panel where the tile was physically pressed. For example, if you place the driver in the atrium room, you should ensure that the panel registered as the transferee is actually located in that space. Otherwise, the user experience may feel inconsistent. In the target SIP URI field, enter the SIP address of the endpoint that should receive the call. In this case, that's our 2N SIP phone. In the next step, we have the auto answer option. When a call is initiated, the driver first places a call to the source device, which is the Crestron touch panel. If auto answer is enabled, the driver will temporarily modify the touch panel settings before the call begins, enabling auto answer. Once the call flow is established, the driver will automatically revert this setting back to the false state. This creates a much smoother user experience. When the user presses the call tile, the system immediately calls the target SIP device, while the source touch panel automatically accepts the call in the background. From the user's perspective, this results in a true single-button call flow. If auto answer is not enabled and it is not already active in the panel settings, pressing the tile would first require manually answering the call on the touch panel, followed by the target SIP device answering on its side. This creates a two-step interaction and a less intuitive experience. For this demonstration, we will enable auto answer and enter the required SSH credentials for the touch panel that initiates the call. Additionally, we define the maximum ringing time on the touch panel. The native range supported by the panel is between 30 and 180 seconds. We will leave this at the default value of 60 seconds. Once everything is configured, you can open the Crestron Home app and see how the tile appears and behaves. To complete the example, let's demonstrate how this driver can be combined with a 2N intercom. We'll create a quick action called Open Door. The idea is that this button will open the door only if an active call is currently established with a specific intercom. This means the same button could theoretically serve multiple intercoms, but the logic will determine which door to open based on the active call. To set this up, go to Whole House and create a quick action named Open Door. In this example, we'll trigger the check call status action from the 2N call log extension. To visualize call state during testing, go to Settings and enable Call Screen Visible. If you have multiple intercoms, make sure to trigger a call status check on each one. Next, navigate to the events provided by the call log extension and select the event labeled Check Result, Call Active. When this event is raised, it will trigger the switch on action that opens the door. Now let's see how it works in practice. After pressing the tile, the designated panel rings, and the call is then placed to the configured target, which in this example is the 2N SIP phone. We accept the call on the SIP phone. For demonstration purposes, we can also forward the call to the 2N IP intercom, and you'll see that forwarding works correctly. Once the call is active on the intercom, we now have a live call session. At this point, when we press the Open Door quick action, the system checks the call status. If the intercom is currently in an active call state, the event is raised and the door is opened, exactly as designed. And that brings us to the end of this video. Now it's your turn to try the driver. You have a trial license available, so feel free to test it in your own environment. If you have ideas for improvements or feature requests, don't hesitate to reach out to our support email. We're always listening and continuously working to improve our solutions. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.